eighth wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack. Welcome to Basically a Geek Show, episode number 47. This is Jack, and here, semi-sentient, is Mike.
In all the souls that I have met in my travels, his was the most human.
You just had to do that, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Feel better now? Do you feel better?
I do. Let's start off, Leonard Nimoy, sci-fi legend, though not always, something that he wanted to be. But, Leonard Nimoy has passed away, and, I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're saddened.
Yeah, I mean, I always hate doing these things.
How dare he had to go and die and make this awkward?
I know, right? Very, very selfish. But no, I mean, it very much sucks. Though I think we can at least rest safe in the knowledge knowing that this will not prevent him from making a cameo in the new Star Trek movie.
Well, I was thinking about that. And, if they really, really wanted to do something like that that just means they have to go Shatner.
Well, they had actually, last year Nimoy had said he had a lung condition, which ultimately was what kills, like some kind of cardiopulmonary condition. But they had said that they might end up going Shatner for that. And I remember at the time when we did this for the show that I had said, look, we really don't need any more TOS cameos.
No, we don't. It's time to let the new series stand on its own.
It's more than, if you want my opinion, was capable of doing that from the second half of the first movie on.
I
certainly by the second movie.
I'd agree with that. I actually would have preferred it if they had not even bothered with the timeline mumbo jumbo and been and just said, okay, we're just rebooting the series from the start. So, just like every other reboot, don't need to explain it. It just is what it is. I would have actually preferred it if they had done that.
That would have been, that certainly wouldn't have been a bad thing. I don't think that the first movie suffered because of how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been that they overthought it, that they were trying almost too hard to give it legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ended up, for some people, actually costing some legitimacy. I personally, I know people hate on the new Star Trek series. I personally really like it.
Yeah, me too, actually. It's I don't have very many complaints, big picture. If I wanted to get nitpicky, there are some things in some of the films I would have done differently, but all in all, I've enjoyed both movies, so, yeah.
But yeah, Leonard Nimoy, he was 83 when he passed.
To kinda quote my mom on this, and I know she listens, so hello Mom.
Hello, Mike's mom.
She always says, and I tend to agree with her, that once, if you make it to 80, everything past that is gravy.
Yeah.
So, while the passing of Leonard Nimoy is certainly tragic and, we're definitely saddened by it, I wouldn't say it's a case where it's like, he was ripped from us too soon.
He had another good 40 years. We're only a few years away from brain in a jar technology. Come on. But, yeah, no, I get you. Him and Bill Shatner are both, I think Shatner's the same age.
Close to it, yeah. Like late 70s, early 80s. But my question is, how the hell did Leonard Nimoy go before William Shatner?
I don't know. I don't know.
You look at Bill Shatner, and it's like, that dude he looks like a heart attack is just going to happen.
I have no idea. And, the thing about Leonard Nimoy was my actual first exposure to him that I remember.
Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
No, Mike. No. It actually wasn't even the original Star Trek series, though I was exposed to that a lot growing up as well. It was actually the first series of In Search Of from like the late 70s / early 80s.
I used to watch those on reruns all the time.
And I can say his voice and that god-awful like 1970s creepy horror music that they had in those things could really spook the fuck out of a 4-year-old, man.
Oh yeah, no, that show was awesome. That show was awesome. I mean, like everything, like half of the History Channel's current lineup owes its existence to that show.
Yeah, exactly. And I also remember when I was younger, my mother, being the huge Trekkie that she was, she I remember going to the bookstore with her and buying Leonard Nimoy's book, I Am Not Spock, and then like 2 years later going back and buying I Am Spock.
That's what I was alluding to at the beginning of the show, and I said he didn't really always want to be known as a science fiction icon. There was a period where he tried to break away from it and be known as more than just Spock, and then I guess when they threatened to turn his lights off, he came around.
Yeah, and
it's kind of like Bill Shatner with those Star Trek conventions, where he poo-pooed on them at first, and then he realized, Bill, we're all you have.
Pretty much, and yeah, Shatner at one point in his career had made a lot of, fairly disparaging comments about the Star Trek fan base, something, not verbatim, I don't know the verbatim quote, but basically like what we would say nowadays about some of us video gamers living in your mom's basement kind of a thing. He'd said a lot of that kind of shit.
I remember he once, I think, again, not quoting directly, but I think he did say something along the lines of, get a life.
Yes. Yeah. And that's... And
then the paycheck stopped coming in.
Right. I guess when, TJ Hooker wasn't picked up in syndication, we had some problems. But
yeah.
In later years, of course, none of these guys have tried to run away from it. Of course, you've always had like DeForest Kelley and George Takei. I don't think either of them have ever, DeForest Kelley was the first of the TOS series to pass.
Well,
and he was also my favorite.
He made a cameo in the, opening of TNG, right? The first episode of TNG.
Yeah. Yeah, as like 120-year-old Dr. McCoy or some shit like that.
Yeah, and Data was showing him around the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
And, he didn't understand that he was an android. He kept thinking Data was a Vulcan.
Yeah. Bones gets on the bridge. You turn it into the lobby of the goddamn Hilton.
It's funny, Data's like, and this is the bridge. Bridge! I thought this was the lounge.
Yeah.
Where's the real bridge, boy?
Yeah. Fucking Vulcan. Sir, I'm an android. Vulcan!
And why is everything beige?
Yeah.
But DeForest Kelley never really, tried to get away from it, and George Takei was doing cameos in Voyager, as late as Voyager. For that episode where, they kind of go back in time because Tuvok had served on the Excelsior.
There we go. That's what we need. Let's get a George Takei cameo in a new Star Trek movie. I mean, if nothing else, if they at least get him for say the ship takes catastrophic damage and instead of, Magil Barrett's voice being the computer, have George Takei and have it be, oh my.
And have New Sulu be slightly disturbed by it.
Yes. Oh.
But, that's, I guess, a trip down Star Trek memory lane, but, Leonard Nimoy, you will be missed.
Yeah, that sucks, moldy nachos.
And, it was just kind of cool to see all I know Twitter isn't something I partake in, but it was cool to kind of see all the people taking pictures of themselves doing the Vulcan salute.
I think at some point, given the influence that Star Trek has had on our culture. It wouldn't surprise me for that to someday actually like become a thing of humanity that we do to aliens.
You do realize where it came from, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, the Vulcan salute?
Yeah, no, I'm sure I've heard it, but yeah.
It's the sign that Jewish rabbis give when they bless someone.
Oh.
Leonard Nimoy, being Jewish, when they're doing the original series, Gene wanted Spock to have some sort of alien salute he could give people.
So we'll go with Jewish. That's alien, right?
Well, Gene was Jewish, so.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Well, no. But it wasn't even Gene who came up with it. He's like said to Leonard Nimoy, like, I want you to come up with some kind of salute that Spock can give people. And Spock Leonard Nimoy, later on, he remembered when he was a kid, the rabbi giving that sign to him for his bar mitzvah. And so he thought, okay, well, I'll do that. But yeah, if you go to a bar mitzvah or any other religious service, really, every time like the rabbi blesses the congregation, he does the Spock salute.
Oh, yet another opportunity for me to embarrass myself. Live long and prosper, Rabbi.
He just glares at you.
Yeah, that could not go wrong at all. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Leonard Nimoy, between In Search of Star Trek and his cameo on The Simpsons, he will be missed.
Well, Galvatron.
Galvatron, yes, and
can't
Sentinel
forget
Prime.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
And, Leonard Nimoy also, very few people know this, cousin of Michael Bay.
Really?
That's how he agreed to be Sentinel Prime.
Nepotism.
And by the way, it's a hilarious thing about Transformers Dark of the Moon. Sentinel Prime, obviously Optimus Prime's mentor, who then betrays the Autobots. At the start of that movie, Shia LaBeouf's character is watching an old episode of the original series, and I think it's Wheelie goes, oh, I've seen this one. This is the episode where Spock goes nuts.
Yeah.
Michael Bay, subtle foreshadowing?
I don't think Michael Bay knows the meaning of the word subtle. Speaking, however, of things that are subtle, this week on the interwebs, we were treated to a bit of a Power Rangers movie. We've known for a while now that Saban Entertainment, who owns Power Rangers, has been cooperating with Lionsgate to make a Power Rangers, like a rebooted live-action Power Rangers film. This came out, and this is kind of part of the controversy. This is not official. This is not affiliated with that project. It's actually on the part of, I think one of the people behind it is Ari Shankar, who actually was one of the writers and producers on the Power Rangers TV series for a number of years. And I'm trying to figure out who directed it. It was someone else who directed it. His last name was Khan.
Khan!
Yeah, James Khan, maybe something Khan, I don't know. But yeah, it's about a 15-minute, bootleg short, and it actually does have the original Pink Ranger.
No, it's not actually the original Pink Ranger.
It's not?
No, that's Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh. Look like the original Pink Ranger.
No, it's not the original Pink Ranger.
Oh,
but,
she's so hot.
Yeah, she is. But, it's, Adi Shankar, who of course was a writer and producer on the original Power Rangers TV series for a number of years, and, Joseph Kahn is the other guy. The project is called Power /Rangers, and a lot of our listeners actually commented, in our thread on sportslogos.net. Basically, they couldn't wait to hear us talk about this. I suspect, not to sound narcissistic, but I suspect more so for me, because I think through our shows discussing Power Rangers, it's become clear that you could take or leave it, whereas it was a huge part of my childhood.
Yeah, but this here, I liked.
Here's the funny thing. You like it, and it's funny that you like it, because most Power Rangers fans hate it. But me being a Power Rangers fan, me being someone who has a history with the original Mighty Morphin series, great fondness for the series. In fact, I bought the reissue Dragon Zord toy. That's how much of a fan I am. And I never had it growing up. But a lot of people, who, would fit that demographic, the same demographic I'm in, hate it, but I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I mean, it got rid of, okay.
Everything you hated about Power Rangers.
Right, exactly. Alright, when it got right down to it, and I know the formula for these shows, but...
Go, Power Rangers.
Yes. But it was like, the part of the show where they were either just the teenagers walking around QQing about teenage stuff.
Wearing their Power Ranger colors and no one can figure it out.
Right, exactly. And, when it was, the 2/3 or 3/4 of the show where it was that shit, or even them just not, anything that wasn't in a Zord, I did not give a flying fuck about.
Anytime there weren't giant robots and or monsters.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I was older than the target demographic at the time by a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
But even at the time, like, if I was flipping the channel and I caught the show when it was during the good part, I'd watch it until it was done. And then I'd go on.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, though, I really didn't have any use for it. And it was just one of those things that I always just viewed it as a fucking cheap-ass Voltron knockoff, which essentially it was. I know, shut up, let me finish. And I know that format has been used before. I know that's a Japanese thing that they do.
By the same company.
But at the same time, it was... if it had been a cartoon, it would have been a lot better than it being live action, I maintain.
It would, yeah, but part of the charm for Power Rangers, for me at least, is kind of the fact, and this is extremely lessened with the new series, because the new series uses updated special effects. I think that kind of takes away from it, is that I kind of like that old kaiju movie kind of feel where it's clearly guys in costumes with like a model city around them, but it's still awesome to watch.
See, that part, yeah, no, I agree with you. That part is awesome to watch, and
so like watching Power Rangers, especially the original stuff, like the Mighty Morphin stuff, like you watch that, and it's got a lot of those style of effects when it comes to the Zord and monster battle. And you're like, okay, I can dig this. And then, yeah, I mean, it's cheap special effects, but in a good way, whereas the new series, it's all computer generated, but it's cheap CGI, so it looks like shit, and I'm just not into it as much.
But like, this bootleg movie that they did, part of the reason that I liked it is that they took something which, they rendered my feeling that it's just a fucking Voltron copy, and they actually made it into something that was more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you had this overarching plot, a plot in Power Rangers, and...
Hey, the plot of Power Rangers is awesome, like, when Lord Zed tries at various points to screw them over, and he always fails, because he's incompetent, even though he kicks ass.
You're confusing a plot for a formula.
There is one episode, okay, so Lord Zed, on a brief aside, when Lord Zed marries Rita in the original show, the wedding ceremony is actually a Jewish wedding ceremony. And then later on, when they have a Power Rangers Christmas special, Lord Zed's plan is to steal all of the children's presents and then hypnotize them with hypnotizing spinning tops.
The war on Christmas continues, and now we know who's behind it.
The Jewish space alien wants to destroy Christmas with evil dreidels.
The other thing I can say is, typical. Typical.
And Lord Zed, even though he's an intergalactic overlord, his mother is still disappointed he's not a doctor. Probably. No, I don't care what Ethel's son does for a living. But yeah, no, there's a lot of angles that I want to tackle this thing from. I guess I'll start off saying I loved all the inside in-jokes or references that they made. I'll start right away with Zach, the Black Ranger.
Yeah.
So in the original show, to kind of give Zack more personality, kind of make the team more varied in their fighting styles, they had Zack, the character, be like a master of what he called hip-hop Keto.
Right.
Which was mixing martial arts with hip-hop dance moves.
Taibo, basically.
Yeah. And then in this show, in this bootleg movie, which kind of picks up with the original characters years later, in high school in the original show, now they're older, like young adults, early mid-20s. Basically, Zack has gotten rich off of making hip-hop keto exercise tapes.
The one that I actually found the most interesting was Billy.
Oh, how they referenced the fact that his original actor was gay?
Yes.
And now they said that now Billy Cranston's character is gay in the short film.
Yeah, and I found that to be an interesting bit of justice that was done because, of course, the actor that played him,
David Yost, yeah.
Yeah, he got a horrible treatment on the set for that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much from the other actors, but from like the producers or director or some shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big reason why he said he left.
Yeah. He went on a magical space journey and never came back.
That's basically what happened, yeah. But, yeah. So I liked that. Again, that's another little inside thing. But coming back to Zack, for another inside, reference, they mentioned that, Zack joined the Machine Empire in this, short film.
Yeah.
Well, that's a reference to the fact that in the 10th anniversary special of Power Rangers, where they fight the Machine Empire on the moon, the original actor who played Zack provided the voice for one of the Machine Empire's generals.
Ah, gotcha.
So, it's just like little stuff like that where like if you're a fan of the series, you kind of are like, "Oh, hey, look at that." And I appreciated that. And what I really liked about it though was that it wasn't so referential that it bogged it all down. At the end of the day, I really liked what Adi Shankar said when they interviewed him about why he did it, like what his reasoning was.
Mm.
And he's like, everything is so dark and gritty. I wanted to make Power Rangers darker and grittier.
Yeah.
Basically, he wanted to take the trend of making all these old properties dark and gritty reboots and do the darkest and grittiest one he could.
Pretty much, and it worked. I mean, and I thought it was, if that were a full-length movie, I'd fucking go see that. I would pay money to go see that.
I know Saban is really pissed off about this, and Saban's actually gotten the film pulled from YouTube. But, you know what? Look, Saban, whatever, I understand you've got intellectual properties that you need to protect, but at the end of the day, I still want to see a 2-hour movie of this more than the 2-hour official movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll watch the official movie when it comes out just out of curiosity. I'm not going to go to the theater to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait for it by some other means. But, this movie, if they made a 2-hour feature length out of this shit, oh yeah, sign me the fuck up.
And I also love how they reference the fact that, hey, in the original show, they recruited a bunch of teenagers to fight an intergalactic war against a galactic overlord.
Yeah.
And they reference that, hey, maybe doing that to a bunch of kids is gonna mess them up.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, I want to reference, one of our loyal listeners, Burgundy, user Burgundy on, sportslogos.net. And, he said, it's, entertaining, but it's not Power Rangers. Why are they using guns instead of blasters? Where's Zordon and Alpha? Why are Kimberly and Jason married? Where's Zack's badass battle axe? And then he said he found it funny that they used the Machine Empire as the villains, even though they didn't show up until after the Mighty Morphin era in the show. Burgundy, want to say, first of all, thanks for listening. 2, I get what you're saying. I really do. Point being though, I think you're overthinking it a bit too much. I think just within the context of this, it was referential enough that I could realistically buy it as a sequel. While at the same time understanding that, it's more of a sequel to the mind's eye of what Power Rangers is, rather than any kind of strict continuity. Another thing that they did that I liked that was very referential, the main villain, who's played by Dawson from Dawson's Creek in this, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was pretty fucking priceless.
But, he's playing Rocky. Now, Rocky was one of, I think Rocky, I want to say he actually replaced Zack on the original team in the show. No, wait, he replaced Jason in the original show. Never mind. My mistake. Anyway, point being that in the Power Rangers Turbo movie, Rocky is in a karate tournament and basically messes up a move and ends up breaking his leg. And in this movie, and in the short, Rocky has betrayed everyone to the Machine Empire, and he's got a robotic leg. Obviously implying that the leg that he lost that he broke, ended up having to be amputated, and he's perhaps bitter about that. But I really liked how, at the start of this thing, he goes, "We were children recruited to fight an intergalactic war. Our side did not stand on some moral high ground."
Yeah, I thought that was, again, it added a layer of subtext to it that, you know, if they actually, there's two routes you can go with rebooting an old childhood franchise. One is, you know, pay as strict homage as you can to it, and, you know, don't fuck with it anything too much, so on and so forth. The other is the route they went with this bootleg, which is, you know, like you said, have some referential stuff in there, have it with the same, you know, enough pillars to anchor onto to let you know that it's still, you know, that thing, and then run with it and adapt it for the new age of the target audience at that time, and that's what this does.
And that's basically people saying, "Oh, this isn't meant for kids because it's so violent." One, I'm not going to deny it's violent. It obviously is. It's obviously very dark. I mean, Bulk and Skull basically set Kimberly and Jason up to be murdered, and they basically do it for meth, which I found hilarious.
Raise your hand if you didn't see that coming.
Okay, between the meth comment and the fact that Billy's last name is Cranston, I kind of want to see a Walter White reference in all of this.
Quite possibly.
But, besides the fact, like, okay, yeah, it's incredibly violent. A lot of references to drug use and sex. I get all of that. At the same time, let's not kid ourselves. Kids as young as 11 are, you know, killing zombies and Russians in various first-person shooter video games. So, is it ideal for a younger audience? Not really, but is it going to be the worst thing they ever see at that age? No, it's not. It's really not. Just my 2 cents.
No, but I mean, yeah, exactly. But I mean, alright, this wasn't aimed for children.
It wasn't, no.
So you know, you can watch that, take 10 seconds and fucking watch that and say, okay, well, this is obviously not for children, and therefore, I don't see why that's an issue, you know. It's aimed at the children from the late 80s, early 90s.
Indeed, who have now grown up and have more, I guess, dark and gritty sensibilities.
Right, you know.
But another thing worth noting is that Jason David Frank, who played the original Green Ranger and continues to play the character of Tommy Oliver in the original show every time they want to bring him back, he trashed this thing, saying, "I'm a PG-13 kind of guy, all the blood and all the sex doesn't do it for me." To which case I'm gonna say, whatever, Jason David Frank, because with a new Power Rangers film series being produced by Saban, it's obviously in his best interest to suck up to them as much as possible to keep that sweet, sweet Power Rangers money coming in.
And the only thing I'll say is, whatever, if you don't like this, no one's making you watch it. And this is the thing that we all have to come to terms with in this age where things are being necroed from our childhood and having new paint and labels thrown on them and remarketed. Just because you don't like what they do with something, it doesn't take away from what you already have.
Exactly. It's like that with the Transformers, when the Transformers movies came out and people were like, "Michael Bay raped my childhood." No, he fucking didn't. Okay, your G1 toys are all still there. You know, The G1 series didn't melt away into the ether.
Yeah, he didn't go back in time and fucking,
Yeah.
Bitch slap Bumblebee or anything, though someone needed to. Yeah.
He didn't murder Flint Dille.
Yeah.
Who wrote the original show.
Anything that you like is still there. Just because you don't like an interpretation of it that's modern, and there's been a lot of these interpretations that I haven't liked. But it's still, the old stuff is still there, like with this new Ghostbusters movie. We all know that's going to be a fucking bucket of shit and a half, but we still have the first one.
The second one, I guess.
We still have the first one.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say, the two moments that really stand out to me, three, because I really did like the reference that Billy was openly gay. I found that to be a nice little nod. But there's that, there was the scene of Zack doing coke.
Yes, that was hilarious.
When Zack does coke, I'm like, holy shit, Zack's doing coke. This is awesome. And then, the final scene that really made me say, okay, I love this and everything that it stands for, was at the end where, Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, it turns out it's not Kimberly, it's Rita in disguise, but, Tommy's like, who are you? You're not Kimberly. I was there when Kimberly died in my arms. And she's like, I'm the one who turned you into a ranger in the first place. And I'm like, oh shit!
Yeah, it was definitely good stuff.
To use a wrestling term, I marked out when Rita showed up, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Saban got it pulled from YouTube. From what I can tell, though, there are still places that you can find it online. There are still sites that are hosting it. It's just that the most popular way to get it has been removed. So if you're looking for it, just search for Power/Rangers. That's kind of the official title of the unofficial movie. That should at least get you to a news story or two that still has the, video uploaded to their own video players. Again, definitely check it out if you haven't already. If you're a fan of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, there's gonna be enough there that you'll get a chuckle out of. And all in all, it's a very interesting experiment, and I maintain I want to see the 2-hour movie of this, because that would be amazing.
The other thing, and I don't think the intent was for this aspect to be humorous.
Okay.
But just seeing all of this happen in a Power Rangers universe. To me was just undeniably hilarious.
Yeah, like, okay, let's go over some of the deaths here. Jason is gunned down in his car 8 hours after marrying Kimberly.
I mean, it's like seeing Mickey Mouse playing fucking Jason Voorhees.
Exactly. Zack is shot in the back of the head. Billy apparently commits suicide. Trini dies off screen, but that's a reference to the fact that, Trini's actress, died in a, car accident. And then there's the fact that, Kimberly, apparently she had a pretty brutal death, and Tommy, Tommy the Green Ranger straight up murders people in all of this. It's pretty violent.
The only thing I would have loved to have had a scene where Alpha is like gutted and sold for parts by an unscrupulous electronics salesman.
Well, the thing that really got me interested in this, kind of why I want to see a full 2-hour movie out of this is, okay, where is Zordon? Like, where is Zordon? Where is Alpha? And I'm not saying that their absence was a mark against this short film. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I want to see within this universe what happened to him. I want to know what happened to Alpha, what happened to Zordon, because obviously things went to hell in a handbasket here. I want to see that story.
Well, and the other thing that I thought when I seen this was, 5,000 fanfics just wrote themselves.
Indeed. And you know what, Saban, I understand that Saban from a legal perspective has to protest this, but it's an uphill battle for them because most people have seen it. It got something like 5 million hits in like the first day it was out.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Again, from a legal perspective, they gotta do what they gotta do, but it's out there. People know it. People have shared the video. People have laughed and cried. Shankar and Khan, who made this thing, they set up with a goal, and they fucking hit a home run.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait. I don't know if they're gonna do more, but I kind of hope they do, and I will watch everything that they put out in this kind of universe, because that was fucking amazing.
Indeed, that was some good shit.
Speaking of good shit, ToyFair 2015 happened.
Ultra Magnus.
Well, we will get there, sir. We will get there. But lots of Transformers happenings. Lots of Generations stuff, which is what we're going to be focusing on. We're just not into Prime. I covered on the show how I bought Prime Strong Arm.
You mean R.I. Derp?
R.I. Derp Strong Arm. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
We're not going to cover Robots in Disguise. I got Strong Arm. She's not good. It's obviously aimed at a younger demographic, and hey, that's fine. I totally get it, but it's just not going to be my cup of tea. So, and I know that you feel the same way, Jack.
Yeah.
So we've decided we're not going to waste anyone's time basically telling you what you already know, that it sucks because, one, that's kind of unfair because we're not who it's supposed to be appealing to anyway, and two, that's just not interesting. So we're just going to stick to Generations, and I want to start off with the smaller end stuff. We've got Legends Warpath and Legends Viper. Warpath is a remold of a Legends Megatron toy done up in red with Warpath's head. And Legends Viper is a Power Glide repainted as a Cobra Rattler. And it's got the Cobra Air Force emblem superimposed with the Decepticon symbol. And apparently, the head sculpt of this thing is meant to resemble the helmets that the pilots of the Cobra Rattlers wear. So, one kind of so-so Warpath repaint in my opinion, and one really cool G.I. Joe homage.
I like it. I don't do the Legends toys really, but I think just for what you pay, you get way too little with those things. Mm-hmm. But as far as Legends go, I do like those.
I really like the Viper one because, okay, let's be honest. This is the best toy news G.I. Joe fans are gonna get this year.
Yeah, quite possibly the only toy you're going to get this year.
No, it's actually kind of funny. Out of a sense of morbid curiosity, I jumped over to His Tank, which is a G.I. Joe fan page.
Yeah.
Just to see if they were talking about this. This was front news the day it was released. Guys, we got a new toy!
Stop everything! People got called for that shit.
People got called, yep. And so,
Mother
I like
of
it.
God.
It's super referential, and Hasbro even said they kind of envision this Viper toy, this Cobra Rattler Transformer. They didn't say it represents a drone, but they did say it's the type of body that a lot of Decepticons will have, basically saying, hey, everyone should buy 5. And I can dig it, because troop building has always kind of been a thing that Transformers suffers from. Obviously the idea being that a lot of most Transformers have unique bodies, so you can't really troop build anyone like you can, say, with Stormtroopers or Cobra Viper figures. So the fact that they're kind of introducing that concept into Transformers, if you're one of those people who really likes to army build, this is a good and cheap way to get it, because being a Legends, smaller than a Deluxe, they're obviously going to cost less. So if you want a troop build, here's a good way to do it. And I appreciate that for those sorts of collectors, because I admit, it is a problem for a lot of Transformers fans. Let's jump over to what you alluded to, Jack. Ultra Magnus. Leader Class Ultra Magnus. And all I can say is I want this inside me today.
I agree. I mean, not that I want it inside you. I mean, I want it inside me. Yeah.
But, what I really like about this is that it's, okay, we've been wanting a proper Classics Generation style Ultra Magnus since the Classics line debuted in 2006. And back then, the closest we got was a repaint of Classics Prime in white and blue. They're like, here's your Ultra Magnus. And of course there was the third-party company Fans Project who made add-on Magnus armor for it, and that was a pretty good stopgap, but this just looks amazing. And even though it is G1, it's done in a very IDW comic style, right down to the Minimus Ambus minifigure. Now, Minimus Ambus, for those who are unaware, basically Ultra Magnus is handled a bit different in IDW. In IDW, the concept of Ultra Magnus was an Autobot commander who inspired Autobot troops in the early days of the Great War with the Decepticons. He died early in the conflict, and in order to keep his legend alive, Autobot Chief Justice Tyrese, what he did was he created the Magnus armor, and then released a story saying that Ultra Magnus had faked his own death. And the Magnus armor is worn by Autobot soldiers to basically carry on the story and legacy of Ultra Magnus because he was such an inspirational figure. And at the time of the IDW comic series, you know, the current quote-unquote Ultra Magnus is this guy named Minimus Ambus, and what they've done is there's this IDW-style leader-class Ultra Magnus, and there's a tiny Minimus Ambus figure that, if you open up Ultra Magnus's chest in robot mode, you can actually insert Minimus Ambus into it, so it's like Minimus Ambus is wearing the Magnus armor. And I dig that. I love that a lot. And Minimus Ambus looks, even though he looks like a tiny toy, even smaller than a Legends. One, he's free, so you don't actually have to buy him. You know, he just comes free with the figure. And two, as small as he is, he's very referential to the Minimus Ambus design from IDW, so great G1 homage, great IDW homage, looks like a fun as hell toy. I'm all for this.
It's so beautiful.
And for those people of you who, you know, for those among you who like Transformers Animated, wrong as you might be.
Wrong
as you might be, this toy even has something for you. In Transformers Animated, Ultra Magnus wielded a hammer. And apparently, even though these pics don't show it, that I'm looking at right now, and most of the pics won't show it, Hasbro did confirm at ToyFair that you will be able to combine all of his guns and missile pods to form a giant hammer.
Well, you know, animated suck, but hammers are cool. I approve.
So, you know, if you want your Ultra Magnus of a hammer, this guy's... And between all of that, you know, it's got general G1 style, IDW specifics, animated weapon options. This is the Ultra and Omega the Ultra Magnus. He is the Omni Magnus. He is all of the Magni combined.
All of the Magnuses.
But, kinda keeping up with, you know, the big, both figuratively and literally, you know, those reveals, we've got Combiner Wars Devistator.
I'm gonna get hate. But, meh.
Really?
I mean, okay, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I like it. Do I want it? Yeah, I do. But I'm just kinda,
Now, is it Devastator in general, or just the figure that they showed off specifically?
I think it's Devastator in general.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know, like, he's cool. And I do have massive nostalgia for Devastator, but, and this is a fine representation. I'm just, maybe it's just me, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it.
I've got to say, I disagree, because to me, is Devastator my favorite combiner? No. But he's the most iconic. When I think Transformers combiners, it's like Devastator is where it starts, and it always does. Sure, there are those I like more. My favorite's probably Bruticus, but at the end of the day, Devastator is the combiner. Like, Devastator is Transformers combiners to me. So, I have to say, even though that the individual robot modes of the Constructicons seem lacking in some are obviously better than others, but they were all obviously designed to keep parts count down so this thing wouldn't cost over $300. But the combined mode, I mean, man, that, to me, this is a handsome Devastator, in my opinion, and I cannot wait.
I mean, like I said, it's cool. I think this is more of a me thing. Because I don't have anything against Devastator. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people tend to have Devastator fatigue. They think he tends to be too overexposed when it comes to combiners.
Okay, at this point, no combiner is overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the last, 10 fucking years?
Yeah, we had those pitiful attempts at combiners during Energon, which sucked. And then we got, then the next attempt at it would have been Power Core combiners, which were a scout size, kind of like a slightly big legend size toy that had like pop-on drones. And those obviously weren't all that great. And then there were a bunch of unofficial third-party combiners, and now we're getting some proper Combiner Wars love. And then there was Bruticus, which War for Cybertron Bruticus, he has his problems. So I'd say we're finally kind of getting good combiners. I would agree that, yeah, they're not overexposed, but I do know that a lot of people tend to have Devastator fatigue when it comes to popular combiners.
I think I found a way to sum up my opinion.
Okay.
Beyond the fact that Devastator was the first combiner, and that nostalgia for, the first time you seen him in the cartoon, and oh my god, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He really doesn't have much going for him. I mean, nostalgia factor aside.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I thought he kicked significant ass in the cartoon.
I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm not saying that, it's just my opinion. I realize I'm in the vast minority on this, and I almost don't even agree with myself. But that's just kind of how I feel about it.
And the Constructicons were the ones who called Soundwave an uncharismatic bore.
No one calls Soundwave uncharismatic.
Yeah, hey, look on the bright side, man. If you're not too psyched about this, it's going to be $130 you managed to save.
Which will go towards Minosaur.
And another thing, if you have been wanting, an updated version of Devastator and you didn't want to spend the money on, the two third-party options, which would have been Mach-A Toys Giant and TFC Toys Hercules, both of those are $300, and up. $300 and up in terms of price tag. Probably even more now that they stopped making them, so they're rarer on the open market. This is gonna cost $120, $130 tops. So if you do want a Devastator, this looks perfectly acceptable, perfectly, reasonable, and it's official, so it looks like a good alternative. If you either missed out on those other options or just thought they were too pricey, now you've got a good alternative to get your Devastator in there. And I, for one, cannot wait to get this. Because, unlike you, I'm kind of blown away by the fact that this is happening. Even a year and a half ago, I would have thought Combiner Wars in general and a Devastator like this would have been impossible from Hasbro. And now, it's fucking Christmas, so.
I don't disagree on that front.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my dislike of this isn't a passionate, intense one.
It's just something about it's just not.
Yeah, I'm just kind of
Well, let's continue on to other combiners that you are meh about, because they released Wave 3 of Combiner Wars will be the Protectobots and Defensor.
Yay!
I know that Defensor is your favorite. And, I mean, okay, I understand you have no love for Defensor, but let's be honest, they have to do him, because the Autobot combiners are so lacking as is.
Oh, I know. And
they can't afford to leave any of them out.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it. And this is, I mean, you know, it's, as far as Defensor goes, this is a good Defensor. I do like one of Defensor's biggest problems was that one of his limbs, Groove, transformed into a motorcycle. And now scale has never been, you know, accurate with Transformers, but having a motorcycle be, you know, form a limb the same size as, say, an ambulance, always stretched, you know, the desire, the willingness to suspend disbelief a bit too far. And what they've done here is, Groove is no longer a limb. They came up with a new Protectobot named Rook, who transforms into a SWAT vehicle. And, Groove now is a proper Legends-sized, motorcycle, and he transforms into the chest plate. Which, you know, I think is a good compromise to both keep Groove in the team and not have wacky scale issues. Yeah, I get that. And, you know, all these toys individually, they actually look pretty cool.
Hotspot looks pretty awesome, not gonna lie. I kinda want like you, I'm not a big fan of Defensor, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna, you know, spend the money on all of them, but I'm at least gonna get Hotspot.
Yeah, I mean, these are very good interpretations. Defensor himself, that head sculpt, kinda derp.
He's kind of got really defined cheeks, is the best way I can put it.
He looks kind of derp.
He looks like he wants to give you a kiss.
I'm gonna pass on that. I am all set on that front.
And the good news is, though, regardless of how you necessarily feel about Defensor, Hasbro seems to have learned from their mistake. Wave 1 of Combiner Wars was all of the aerial bots, but minus Air Raid, and they put Drag Strip in there. So I've got all of the aerial bots, but I can't make a proper Superion because Wave 2 hasn't released up here yet. So it's just kind of frustrating that I have to wait until the next wave to get all of the rest of the Stunticons so I can form Menasor and Superion. Here, all of Wave 3 is going to be entirely the Protectobots. So if you are keen on getting all the Protectobots and forming Defensor, you can, if you're lucky, knock it all off in one trip to Walmart. So at least they learned their lesson there. But,
providing they've cleared out all the movie lockdown.
Oh, and the Bumblebees.
Yeah.
But one last thing, you know, for our ToyFair discussions, this caught a lot of people by surprise. They have remolded, an extensive remold of Combiner Wars Silverbolt, the aerial bots leader. They've turned him into Cylonus. And, Cylonus, a lot of people aren't sure what to make of this because he's going to form the torso of a new combiner called Galvatronus. Now, first off, I find this completely pointless because, as we alluded to, the Autobots are the ones who are lacking in combiners. You don't need to go out of your way to make make up new Decepticon combiners. You've got enough to draw from.
Yeah, you really do.
Secondly, you know, obviously the name Galvatronus, this kind of seems, obvious, but on the Silverbolt toy, Superion's chest, splits into two, each half on the outside of each of Silverbolt's legs. You can just make out in some of the picture galleries of Combiner Wars Cylonus that the sides of his legs look like Galvatron's chest. The, implication being that that Galvatronus will basically be a giant combined version of Galvatron with Cylonus as the torso. And I'm just gonna guess 4 sweeps as the limbs.
I don't know.
This has no appeal to me. This is kind of how you feel about Devistator is how I feel here. Like, okay. They already came out with a very good Generations, Cylonus toy back when the line was called Universe. Back in 2008, 2009. So, I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, you're gonna come up with another Generations Cylonus, it's gotta be significantly different. The old toy has aged very well. So there's it's not a matter of needing a better toy. The only thing this could have done to make it look worthwhile to me is if they styled it like IDW Cylonus. In IDW, they kind of gave Cylonus more of a skeletal samurai motif in appearance. And if they went that direction, then I'd probably buy it just to have a representation of IDW Cylonus. Problem is, this is straight up G1 cartoon Cylonus, which is what the past generation's toy was. So, in my mind, I'm looking at this, I'm going, well, why do I need it? I already have a good G1 generation Cylonus. So what does this do differently? And the only thing it does differently is that it combines. And do I need a Cylonus that's part of a combiner that has never existed until now? No, I don't.
Well, I don't know. I kind of see that differently because, I mean, that Universe Cylonus, that's not something that you can run out and buy right now in
that
Walmart.
Is true. If you missed it, this is a good means to get Cylonus in your collection.
And I personally, I like this version. I think it looks really cool. I'm also applauding the fact that they're making a new combiner. I think that's awesome. Though I do wholeheartedly agree with you. Why the fuck is it a Decepticon?
Yeah, you think if they were going to start making up combiners that they'd throw one for the Autobots.
But,
funny thing, apparently they are going to be making a new Autobot combiner. They're going to tie the Combiner Wars line into IDW, get some comic advertising for the toy line. And some pictures were leaked, one of which shows that apparently they're going to make an Autobot combiner. They're going to repaint the Combiner Wars Optimus Prime white to serve as Ultra Magnus. And on top of that, the Blackjack figure, which is the car that forms the chest plate of Menasor, is going to be repainted as Rodimus Prime. So this new Autobot combiner, we don't know who the limbs are going to be. We didn't get a shot of that, but from what we can tell, body is going to be Ultra Magnus, and Ultra Magnus just decided to grab Rodimus and use him as a breastplate. Which I think is the proper, the proper usage of Rodimus given his skill set.
Either that or crotch plate.
So we are getting new Autobot combiners, but I just don't have, I don't know. I have no desire to see Galvatron as a combiner. So this just seems like an easy pass to me because I see no reason to get it. Nothing about it really just stands out as something I've got to have. So I'm probably going to pass on Galvatron here. Cylonus and Galvatron.
I would like to have the Cylonus, if nothing else, just because it's a good Cylonus and I don't have one.
And and just saying, it's coming from the Combiner Wars Silverbolt mold, which is an excellent toy. So it will be a good toy. Yeah.
Now, as far as the others go, Galvatronus itself, do I have any give a shit? Potentially. I'd want to see the end product. I want to see what it's made out of.
That is true. Even though I have no desire to get this toy, I do kind of want to see what the final thing looks like, and I want to see what his limbs are.
And I don't know, part of me also wants to support a new combiner. Mm-hmm. Because we need more of this shit, son.
Again, though, we don't need another Decepticon one.
Well, no, but hey, maybe Autobot eventually,
Maybe they'll finally, do a proper ruination of, the Wreckers, but until then, that'll do it for Transformers Toy Fair. Again, not really getting into, R.I. Derp. It was a thing. Also, another thing, kind of just want to note about Toy Fair, Creo still won't die. They still keep releasing Creo, even though, as far as I can tell, no retailer is carrying it, because it's terrible.
I think they're, Toys R Us exclusives, but...
well, okay, there you go. I guess Toys R Us threw them a bone. Just wanted to kind of close out the show. Let's talk about World of Warcraft patch 6.1, because that was a thing that happened, though you wouldn't know it.
We got cool new features like, improved flight paths that should have been in at launch. We got content, son.
No, we did not. No, we did not. Okay, so first of all, a couple shows back, we addressed those rumors about what patch 6.1 was gonna contain. We can safely say all of that was bullshit, because if any of that were to happen, it would have implied new things were added to the game. This patch, you get the improved flight points. Garrisons received a bit of an overhaul. They made completing work orders a bit easier, and they added a boombox, or a jukebox into the garrisons, where you can now, if you don't like the garrison music, you now have the option to play themed music for any of the Alliance races and Horde races if you're in the Horde. So, I know you like the Ironforge music, Jack.
Best in the game.
So, once you complete the quest that gets you the jukebox, you will be able to play the Ironforge music in your garrison all the time.
That's kind of cool.
And yeah, no, it really is cool.
Or I could just...
Go to Ironforge?
Well, I was going to say, or I could just play it on YouTube on a loop.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, it's a cool feature, and then they also have this thing where now a random NPC will show up at your garrison and offer you unique daily quests, and sometimes they'll give you treasure, a cool item, or other times they'll just give you a lot of gold. The other big thing was the heirlooms tab. Basically, how it works is every heirloom you've ever bought is now goes into this tab, and any character on your account has access to it. So what you do is, if you create a character that you want to give heirlooms to, and you've already bought that heirloom, you create a new character, go to the heirlooms tab, find the item that you want, click it, and it'll create that item for you and put it in your bag. So that's cool. But again, this was something that they were hyping about launch.
Well, okay, to be fair, I mean, this patch does have a number of very nice and relatively well thought out quality of life improvements. It
does, but it doesn't seem like that should be a major content patch.
No, I'm not saying that either. I don't know.
Well, another thing that they did, I just want to say, Tanan Jungle, it was revealed that we wouldn't see that until 6.2. And then another thing that we did not get, there was going to be a quest hub around Iron Docks in Gorgrond that was going to provide new level 100 questing content. That's being pushed back to 6.2. So I think when that broke, when we found out we weren't getting Iron Docks, that's what caused a lot of people to say, 6.1? What would you say you do here?
You could watch yourself die on replay.
Oh, no, you can't do that.
Oh.
It just gives you a list of moves that killed you. That's a new feat. That's another new
it's always done that.
No, they haven't. I mean, no, they have in the chat box.
Right.
But now there's a new feature that when you die, beside the button that says release spirit, that sends your spirit to the graveyard, now you have something that says recap where you hit it, and then this window pops up that shows you the moves the enemy used to kill you.
Mm.
Again, this is something that's actually been in, Jack, you are right, in the chat box. If you use the right filters, you could, bring this information up before, but now it's just made handy. You know, if you want to see where exactly your failures, laid.
I'm already pretty aware of my failures.
Okay, well. Now Blizzard has given you the option to, review them at your leisure.
My self-esteem thanks them.
So that's pretty much 6.1, and if it seems brief, because it is, if a Blizzard employee actually, a high-ranking Blizzard dev actually took to Twitter and said, I can't wait until content patches are content patches again.
That just makes it worse to me, though, because it's like, okay, well, you're one of the ones that controls what the content is in these patches.
I don't know what it is.
Get the fuck with it.
The Iron Docks situation with them saying it was going to be in and then saying it's been pushed back says to me that they're still having trouble getting content out on time. Like, there's obviously something going on in their offices that, is delaying production. Chris Metzen, leave your cocaine habit at home. But basically, I don't know. Like, they did a Q&A, right? Where they said that the 13 months between the release of Siege of Orgrimmar, which was the last patch of Mists of Pandaria, and the launch of Warlords of Draenor, they said that 13 months was too long. And they said that, they're aiming for only a 6 to 7 month gap between the end of Warlords of Draenor and the launch of the new expansion that's going to follow it. We were talking about this earlier, Jack, and I agree with you. This is gonna be something where I have to see it to believe it. Because stuff like the Heirlooms tab, stuff like Blackrock Foundry, stuff like the Iron Docks. Iron Docks was said to be in 6.1, it's getting pushed to 6.2. The Heirloom tabs and Blackrock Foundry were supposed to be out at launch, and they've been pushed back to 6.1. So, we've obviously got a situation here where it's not even a problem that's been resolved. It's still an issue, and we're a decent ways into Warlords of Draenor, where whatever it is that's going on that's holding up productivity, it's still a problem. And I don't trust in their ability to stick to that 7 to 8 month window.
The only thing that I can think of is that maybe they are pacing themselves, and I know that sounds funny, but like maybe they're pacing themselves with a 2-patch schedule in mind. Mm-hmm. 6.1, 6.2.
They're going to save
expansion.
They're going to save all the good stuff for 6.2 as a big go home thing.
Right, and then they're going to call it Wraps of 6.2 and start on new expansion. Which would be then, we're at, say, 6.2 launching around August. Mm-hmm. Or, July, August, somewhere around in there. Mm-hmm. Then BlizzCon, like 3-4 months later. Mm-hmm. And then new expansion shortly thereafter that.
Again, like you said, I mean,
that's very optimistic, and again, I'll believe it when I see it. But I'm,
Well, like you said, I would be much more willing to believe them if at last year's BlizzCon they didn't even have to have a trailer for the post-Warlords of Draenor expansion. Just show us what you're working on, show us some sketches, give us some general ideas. The fact that they opted to showcase a new Pixar movie masquerading as a video game kind of put okay, you're not serious about this. So, I'll believe when I see it. And that's all I have to say about 6.1, because that's all there is about 6.1.
Yeah, but pretty much, yeah. Last BlizzCon really made me feel like an idiot. One of those few occasions.
For having hope and believing in them?
Well, okay, I'm not wrong often, but when I am, it kind of takes me aback. Not in the sense of being arrogant, but in a sense of, I'd put a lot of thought into what would probably happen at BlizzCon.
I was psyched for the possibility of Warcraft 1 and 2 being remade. And I thought it's like, oh, this could be awesome.
Like I said at the time, though I congratulate Blizzard on actually getting a new IP for a change, I would have really rather it not come at the expense of, a WoW expansion. I'm not saying necessarily that it did, because I know different dev teams and all that shit. I mean, I get it, but their their failure to deliver anything to really solidify that promise of 1 year turnaround times on X-Packs, it's really starting to bother me. And now it's just starting to sound like them flapping their gums at this point. We've heard it for so long, and every time, you and I have had this discussion since 2008.
Yes.
Where I'll say, well, Mike, it may not be as long as you're thinking. They did say they're going to start, getting that turnaround time down. So, and then insert the part where I predict, some amazingly early expansion launch about 3 or 4 months early before it actually does. And then, it hits. I'm like, God damn it. Again, no more. No more. I'm done having faith in these people to actually produce content in a timely fucking manner. That doesn't mean that I enjoy their content any less or am less of a fan of said content. It just means that I'm basically looking at them like a coke addict who says that they're going to get their act together.
Indeed. And, prove us wrong, Chris, on both counts. Prove us wrong.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Oh, Chris Metzen and his nose candy. Anyway, on that note, I think that'll do it for this week. Basically a Geek Show, episode 47. You can catch us on all of our platforms, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podomatic, YouTube, iTunes, all that good stuff. For Jack, this is Mike, signing off.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.